everyone. We'll be covering Dundee in this one as well.
David, can you sum up your emotions?
Very mixed emotions. Never, I say it all the time, hate losing, so never accept losing games of football, but I can't ask the players for any more. They gave me absolute everything, and then I think when you add the manner of the goal you lose right at the very end, it took 3 spectacular efforts to beat us over the tie against a real top team. So it is, as I say, I'm proud of the players, proud of the effort, from what I got from every single one of them. But ultimately it's a bit raw at the minute because you lose a game.
There was, Warren mentioned that the players were so concentrated in this game, and then did you feel as if there was just a momentary lapse when that first one went in? Because it's the first time they've had a sniff of a shot. You were throwing bodies in at every chance.
Yeah, I think probably a bit of both. You'll always look at it and say, can you do better to stop the shot? I've only seen it live, I've not really watched it back, but at the time I think it's as good a strike as I've seen at Easter Road, to be honest. He hits it really, really well through bodies. So we'll obviously analyse everything, we look at every goal and every opportunity that we give up within the game, but it has took a strike for 40 yards tonight, and then an overhead kick and a dead ball from 30 yards in the first leg. So no, the players can take a lot of pride for the way they defended, the concentration that needed to be there. A challenge to the players before we played a team of this level is you need to be at the very best all the time. That's the level, that's the concentration levels required, and as I say, I can't fault the effort, I can't fault what they've given me over a course of 210 minutes.
And do you think there's a greater learning curve when you come up against a side like that, technically, what they can provide in that final third that will serve you well for next week?
Yeah, I think you need to obviously try and improve all the time. I think even when you look at how the 2 ties have went, I think we've improved tonight in terms of we had more control in the game in certain areas, and some passages of play, we're a little bit braver on the ball. Still not at our absolute best, we can still improve in that area, but I think the way we played tonight was a lot braver, and we needed to be, because we couldn't play just constantly sitting in. We can still improve in certain situations, a couple of scenarios where we didn't quite make the best of it. But then when you think back to what their biggest threat is, set pieces are huge for them. They're a big, strong, powerful side, and we defended them incredibly well, and as I've already said, reduced them to shots from distance, and it's took 3 wonder strikes to beat us. So you'll always look at that, you'll always have to learn from it, but that's also great for the players to test themselves. I say that all the time, when you test yourself against elite level opposition, which the Champions League team last season for a reason, they've got top players, and it's great for the players to feel that.
David, do you expect to bring in Grant Hanlon?
No, I think we're just always looking into the squad to see what can be done. I think right now, whilst the window's open, you're always going to be getting speculation and rumours, but for me I'd rather talk about the players that are in the building tonight, purely because of what they've given me. I think that would be the right thing to do, and then we'll look at that down the line.
What's in the stadium tonight, David? So does that suggest that there has been initial talks, or?
No, listen, I think, as I say, there's a number of players that we're looking at. There's a number of players that have came up. There's areas in which we might need to improve. There's areas in which we're always linked, players linked with away from here as well. So that whilst the window's open, there's always need to be active. You always need to be. There's always speculation. So we always need to be moving towards making sure we finish the window stronger than when we started it, and that's what we're working towards.
Do you think tonight would have impressed any potential signing that might have been here watching?
I would think so. It was a fantastic night in terms of the atmosphere. The fans were outstanding. The amount of tickets that were sold, the backing right throughout it. Because I've been there as a player, there's no better feeling than when you start to feel tired and the crowd get right behind you. And they've certainly done that. They drove the players on for 120 minutes, which was fantastic. Because there's periods in the game where Midtjylland had a lot of the ball, but the fans didn't turn. They didn't get frustrated with that. They stuck behind the team. They cheered every single action, and that's credit to them, which I knew they would be because they've been right behind us. And we needed them to be tonight against a top team. Asked them for that, being the 12th man, and we certainly got that. And we need them to do the exact same again, which they will do up at Dundee, because that's the start of the league campaign, which is a completely different challenge, but another one to face. And then they've got another European tie to look forward to in a week's time. So, which they'll, again, I'm sure they'll go in their numbers if they can. So, it's been well documented to me how important the fans are and how big they are to helping the team, and they're certainly doing that at the minute, which is brilliant.
Maybe a bit early, but how is everyone? Does that sort of Nicky came?
Yeah, Nicky just felt his hamstring, and then when the way the game had went, we we could make one more sub, but we couldn't stop the game, so it had to be done at half time. So Nicky was feeling his hamstring a little bit, so we didn't want to take that extra risk, knowing that if it tightened up, then he wouldn't be able to be subbed off and we go down to 10 men. So we took the opportunity to change him at there, and we'll just assess that, because he obviously came on, he felt it a little bit, and hopefully it's not too bad, but it was definitely awareness in there, so we need to manage that.
Obviously it's very raw at the moment, but how do you actually go about picking your boys up in time for the Dundee game?
That's the challenge for myself and the staff, because they're not robots. They've gave absolutely everything there, and they're flat, they're deflated because they came so close, and the manner they go right at the very end makes it even harder to take. So very different if we're completely outplayed from a higher level opposition, and then it's one of them ones you can just move on quickly. I think, as I say, they came so close, they gave us absolutely everything, so they can't just, it's difficult to just switch off and then just be like, oh sorry, we'll just move on to the next one. So our job is to make sure we get around them, we rest, make sure the recovery's there, and the attention very quickly changes towards Dundee, so the fresh challenge of what that faces. But it's again the domestic stuff and how well we done last season. European is a reward, European ties is the reward for how well we done, so we need to make sure we start the season well. Dundee will be a real tough test because they've got a new manager, they'll have new players that want to impress and a different way of playing. We need to be ready for that challenge, because it's always tough when you go up there anyway.
Do you think you get into that match now as a side with a different attitude about it, because people might look and say, well, Hibs will be favourites because of what you achieved at the tail end of last season, it's a scalp to be taken?
No, I think it's always tough going up there anyway. The league showed that last season. Think about everybody can beat everyone, how tight it was throughout the whole season. The last time we went up there obviously was a real difficult night, so I think expect it to be a real tough test. I think tonight's energy and effort required is obviously a lot for the players, but that's why you do pre-season. We're ready for and all the preparations being geared up to make sure the players are ready to go Thursday, Sunday, and you've got a squad that's able to deal with that as well. So that's the benefit of doing what we do. So the players will make sure they're ready. As I've said, they've got no time to feel sorry for themselves, so they need to make sure we are ready for that. But it is a good game to look forward to, and tonight's performance and way of playing will be very different, a very different challenge to how we'll set up against Dundee.
You talk about Dundee having a new manager. Is Stephen Pressley someone you've had much experience with?
Only just knowing him as playing for Scotland and watching him as a player. I've never ever worked with him or worked anywhere beside him, so he obviously had a fantastic career, and I'm sure he's going to be obviously a good manager as well. So he'll definitely have his players ready, a different way of playing from previously, and he's got new players that will be looking to try and impress as well. So I think everyone will be looking at themselves, wanting to start the season as well as you can. That's always a challenge, and we're certainly no different.
With Belgrade next Thursday, how intense a period it is and how difficult is it to manage just logistically in terms of going to Dundee on Sunday and then going to Belgrade next week? Yeah, we'll do everything we can to make it as easy as possible for the players. The one thing you want to always do is you want to make sure they're going into it as fresh as you can. So the Belgrade game will take care of itself by the time we get to that. The plans will go in place to make sure we can get there the easiest way, the quickest way. Do you stay over? All these things that come with that. You travel day early, but that'll all take care of itself. Everything is geared up now towards Dundee. We make sure we get everybody with the game plan ready to go up there to make sure we try and win the game, and then the attention then will look forward to Thursday night in Europe again, which naturally the players will all be ready for you. You had the chance to do a bit of homework on Belgrade to know up to this time?
I think we're always looking at potential things you could face. You have an eye across everything. Without, the players aren't aware of any of that goes on. That's the whole point of your analysis department. It's what we do as coaches. We're always preparing for what the possible outcomes could be. But right now, the attention will be all about Dundee, and the players will be fully aware of what we're trying to face there.
I think everybody's kind of seen and talked about the unity of this squad. Like, how big does that become now that you're going into these sort of Thursday, Sunday challenges?
It's vital. I think it's vital that you've got a strong squad. I think we demonstrated that a lot last season, and the togetherness within it, because especially when you're looking at the two ties we've just played there, we started the same side in both games, so you naturally got players that are disappointed they're not playing. A lot of players are massive contributors, well, all massive contributors last season. The ones that were here last season will all be disappointed if they weren't playing in this game. So how do you deal with that? They deal with it by coming on and trying to affect the game in a positive way, and we were so good at that last season. When I think that collectiveness and the togetherness came from subs impacting games, and I say it every week that you never start the team that starts will never finish, so everybody needs to be ready to play. Everybody is good enough to play, which is why they're in the squad, and that's why we've developed such a squad that is capable of fighting on two fronts, hopefully.
You've added Josh Mulligan to the side for Dundee, has he been able to give you any added insight into his opponents for the weekend?
No, I've not spoke to Josh about Dundee at all. I've been obviously purely just talking to him about the challenge he's faced. One thing I'm been impressed with Josh is he's settled into the group really well, as has all the signings, to be honest. I think so. That's a real positive. And obviously Josh hasn't played under this manager, so it will be slightly different. And I'll just be concentrating on making sure I get him recovered, rested, and ready to go again, because he's obviously played a lot tonight, and gave absolutely everything. Emptied himself tonight as did everybody else. So we'll quickly get them recovered.
Thanks, Dave.